Yo, what's good everybody? My name is Jay Fatty. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about drums before the sample chops or sample chops before the drums and how each technique can vary and how it can produce a different product. So let's get right into it. We're going to do sample chops first. So the first song we'll sample is this. I don't really know. It's some Soviet funk stuff, but I'm going to link it down below if you're going to want to try to sample it as well. But I already got it pulled up in Serato sample. If you haven't seen my video on how to sample in Serato, check it out with the link in the top right. But I already got some chops. We're going to record it right into the playlist, and then we'll talk a little bit more. So I'm going to go up here to their playlist, make sure it's got notes and automation on, and I'm going to just left click to arm it and hit play. All right, so that's essentially it. We got this right here. I'm not going to quantize really or anything. I'm just going to kind of leave it sloppy, all right? That's something that I like to do sometimes. Sometimes you need to quantize it a little bit, but leaving it sloppy and then putting sloppy drums over it really can create something nice. All right, cool. So it sounds right. I'm going to consolidate it. Right-click on the track, consolidate track from track start, hit start. All right, cool. So we do have a little tail end over here we'll chop out. Wait, if you don't know how to do beat scroll, it's just this button right here. Simple. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to the magnet here and put it on none. And I'm going to do, I could either click and drag or I could do shift and click, and we can cut right before that little bit there because we don't want it. So let's hear if it loops right. Cool. So as you can see, it's not on a BPM really, and it might even be in a different time signature. That's why I like doing chops first, because you really can get a unique groove and you can just do what feels right. And a lot of times it doesn't look right, but if you keep going with the process and keep adding on to it, recording the drums and either moving them how you need to or recording them in just via MIDI, you can really get a nice beat. So once again, I'm going to go up here. I'm going to go up here to options, project. Let's see. Yeah, options, project, general settings, and let's put 3.4 and see if it's in that. Okay. Well, actually, this seems like it's kind of in 3.4 at this beginning part. And then just by looking at the waveform. But once again, it's very sloppy. So we'll actually just keep the whole thing in 4.4. Because I know this part is definitely in 4.4. So, and that's the part we're going to add drums on anyway. This beginning part is more of kind of like a break chops, really to give it uniqueness as the beat evolves. So we're going to still be in that none snap on the magnet because we're going to, like I said, do everything sloppy here. So I'm going to drag the playhead to the beginning of this transient, right where the beat switches. I'm going to put a pattern here, make sure it's right on that track or that playhead, just like so. And we'll drag it out for how long we need it. So we'll just have this pattern repeat. So we're just going to drag it out to the length of the initial loop, so about right there, and then we'll be able to control left click to highlight that and do a control B, and it'll copy it over exactly where we need it. All right, now we're gonna just record some drums in. So I'll go to count drums. Let's see, count drums volume 3. I'm gonna get an after party kick. That sounds good. And let's just record a kick in first. All right, so I'm going to once again make sure notes and automation is on. Left click it, And starting at C5 on my MIDI keyboard, I'm going to just try to record a little kick pattern in. Okay, so we might have to mess with it a little bit, but let's hear. What you can do is when the notes are off, like this one, we're going to need to shift this over so it'll be on grid. Once again, we can go up here and put this off grid to move it around where we need it. You can also do a shift middle mouse button and it'll be able to move it off grid whether the snap is on none or not. Alright, cool. So now we'll record a snare in. It's very sloppy, but it's dope, you know? It's still got a groove. So we can keep recording more drums in here if we want. The premise is the same, you know? And sometimes, a lot of the times, when you're doing the chops first, a lot of times you can just kind of go off of the drum pattern of the chops. A lot of times there'll still be a drum pattern there. And you can kind of evolve that, layer other drums on top of it, and make it sound really dope. And these are kind of just layering with that crash sound that's already there. That last one, there isn't one in the sample, but it's still hitting, and it just gives it a difference. It's dope. All right, so yeah, that's pretty much it for... Now, a lot of times it doesn't have to be this sloppy. Sometimes it'll be on grid, right? And you don't even really have to have it sound super offbeat almost. But if you really want to get a super groove, you can do it like this, because, you know, you're limited by putting it on the grid. You do have options with swing. It's just not swing like this. All right, so now we're going to move on to doing drums first. All right, so I'm going to just choose a tempo. Let's just choose like 82. And I'll just throw on an empty pattern. We can put this back online, this magnet. And I'm going to just drag it out to 4 bars because we'll just copy it over. And we're going to keep it very simple. When we start with drums, we just got to keep it simple. And then put the chops onto it and maybe add more drums if we need to. But all we're going to do is, let's see. So I like this kick, so I'm going to just put it like this, just one hit. And this is one method. You could do all sorts of different methods, but like I said, we're going to keep it simple. Okay, so just like that, you get the idea, and now we'll find a snare. We're going to put some swing on this. Just bear with the process, trust me. Doing it like this, keeping it simple, most of the time always ends up, especially if you get a good sample choice, it always ends up sounding really fire. So I just put that snare there and layered a snare on top of it. So now we'll do the hat. And we want this open hat to stop when the hi-hat comes back in. So we'll go over to the wrench, put it on group by 1, over to the hat, group cut 1. And so every time, well, you'll just hear it. So it sounds way more natural instead of that open hat sound overlapping the hi-hat. Alright, so now we're going to go in here, right click on the piano roll of the first element, do an Alt R and just randomize the velocity. Press K on the keyboard to go to the next element and do the same thing. Just like so. And you can go through the seeds and get different velocity changes. Alright, so let's find a song to sample. What we're also going to do is if we click and drag, starting with the first element to the last element in the channel rack, let's go over here to the drop down arrow, set swing mix for selected. I'll put it on 75% and just put some swing on. Okay, so I ended up finding this song right here. Really dope, alright? I'm going to link this in the description as well so you can check it out. But we ended up already getting something like this. So that first bit there was a little freestyle at the end. I'm still trying to figure out another part, but we're going to record this first part in. So let's put a different pattern in, drag it to the length of our drums, and let's record this. I just hit R on my keyboard, and as long as notes and automation is on by right clicking and looking, as long as you put this on once, it will be on. So you don't have to always check as long as you know it's on. Just arm your track to record, and here we go. Some of it's a little off, like right here. Just drag it over. So I just like this first chop, really. For the first time I did it, this first bar. Alright, so that does sound good. I'll leave these last 2 bars in there. Alright, so let's find another part for this. So in Serato, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to favorite all of these. Now I can hit find samples and it'll keep the ones that I have and it'll allow me to find different ones. Now that was just one example for each method. There are all sorts of different ways to make beats. So you could start with the sample and it could be on grid and you don't have to do sloppy drums. It was just the way that sample was. So it just depends. There's different techniques. If you're starting with the sample, generally you're molding your drums to the sample. Whereas if you're starting with the drums, you're molding the sample to the drums. So keep that in mind. If you want me to do more examples like this, let me know down in the comments. If this video brought you value, please leave a like, hit subscribe, and hit the little bell. Make sure you stay safe, stay striving, and always be getting it. Much love, y'all. Peace.